morning Emergency Services Committee meeting. Happy New Year. Alina, would you?
I'll go get it.
You can call the roll. That's right. I'm sorry.
Bill Flat.
Yes.
Bob Young.
Yes.
Jim Carley. Here. Justin Gimbel. Here. Carl Holt. Paul Ritter. Bill Peterson. Yeah.
Okay, would you allow for, we're gonna call it appearances of Seth Upoff, so we can, get him out of here for child rearing? I forgot what-
Go ahead for whatever reason.
With that addendum to the agenda, can we have approval of the agenda?
So moved. Yes.
It's been seconded. All those in favor? Aye, thank you. Minutes of December 8th, got a chance to read those? Bill Peterson, motion, you second? Okay.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Seth, would you give us a quick rundown on anything that's occurred regarding wind energy or whatever?
Or whatever. I'm not gonna talk about the bears.
Careful with the weather.
No, in terms of the lawsuit, I can't recall when we were here last if we had the new date set. And now, after asking me the question, I can't recall off the top of my head. I know it's in the week of January 22nd or so is when we're scheduled to have our first conference, case management conference with the judge. We've got until the 7th to file our answer. I was going over what's likely to be maybe the next to final draft this afternoon. So hopefully by tomorrow afternoon we'll have the final draft completed and we'll be able to get that filed either tomorrow or Thursday. So that's it in terms of the lawsuit. That's what's going on there. I think this had happened before the last meeting, but Mr. Lucahan's filed a motion to intervene on behalf of numerous additional defendants that'll be, or parties I should say, parties to the suit. I don't recall the exact number. I think it was over 50, but I don't remember if it was over 60 or not. So that's a petition to intervene, and that'll have to be ruled on by a judge at a future point in time. Invenergy hasn't taken a position yet as to whether or not they're going to object to that petition, so I don't know whether they'll object or not. So in terms of the lawsuit, that's what I can tell you for now in terms of the pendency of it. As to the request to the Attorney General's office for an opinion, I called this afternoon for another follow-up, and I continue to get the same answer, which is it's in the process. And they're not going to give me a timeline. They're not going to give me an estimated timeline. It's in the process. So,
Okay.
yes.
Is the appeal still being handled by Judge Bachnecht, or?
At this time, it still currently is, yes.
I thought,
There hasn't been any additional motions filed since the last time we were here. Yeah,
weren't you going to file one?
potentially, yes.
You haven't done that yet?
Not yet, I have not.
Okay.
So,
That's what I was referring to.
fair enough.
Anything else?
Unless there are any other questions, no, that's the update. So really, things are just starting to get rolling with the lawsuit, and I can't remember if I expressed this the last time or not, but in some of the previous litigation with wind farm issues, they went through multiple judges. Carolyn could answer this question better than I could, but I think there were 6 or 8 judges that they went through before they finally landed on one. So there's always the potential that that could occur in this case, where there will be bounce around to different judges before it finally lands. So issues like that can cause delay. This is not going to be a quick process. I know I said that earlier on. But we're going to continue to forge ahead. I've said before, we're going to zealously defend the decision of the county board, and we'll continue to go at it. It may be a slow process, but we'll keep charging forward.
Regarding updating our ordinance, is there anything that you could add to that at this time?
Based on the last meeting, I was of the opinion that it was going to be in a holding pattern until there was an answer from the Attorney General's office. So I haven't pursued that issue any further.
Okay.
It's my recollection from the last meeting that the parties felt there was no sense moving forward on the smaller items until the larger items had been addressed.
Okay.
But do you think that's going to be kicked down the road? I know you called a couple times, is that gonna be kicked down the road several months to get because if it is, we need to be working on those ordinances,
I wish I could give you an answer.
and you can't.
They could call tomorrow and say we've got an opinion, or they could call 6 months from now and say they've got an opinion. I don't think it's gonna be on the 6-month end of that spectrum.
You don't think it's gonna be tomorrow either?
I certainly don't. So, I wish I could give you a better timeline. I really was hopeful that they would fast track it. Obviously, I don't have, with the way things are in Springfield, it takes more juice than what I've got to make things move, so.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything for Seth? Thank you for coming.
Sorry, I can't say any longer, but I've got other things to attend to, so. Everybody have a good evening.
We understand. The ETSB report, I passed that out, let's see, Paul, did you get this?
No.
Okay, Alina, did you?
Yes, I have.
Okay, everybody else, okay here? I'll just go over a few quick things. I kinda like the way that they do these reports, because you only have to read them up from the bottom. As of right now, interviews are being conducted fulfilling 2 full-time and 1 part-time position as dispatchers. Finance, it says there's no change. Capital projects, the phone system, says still no change, still fine, it says. By the way, these are hot off the press from Chief Wolford a few minutes ago. The radio system, meeting with Motorola later this week to discuss implementing some recommendations to the current system without changing hardware, as well as feasibility to install new hardware and at what cost. And I think that's in reference to problems in Dwight.
Yeah.
And I haven't talked with those people this week, but we're certainly hoping that Motorola will see fit to do something to improve that situation. Regarding the CAD system, user training continues this week, and the next step begins next week. All is progressing smoothly. I know a lot of our fire and police people have already done at least 1 training on that. State efforts to consolidate dispatch operations. All filings were approved for Streeter to join. Now we're just waiting for Streeter to get prepared to make the switch at the end of the first quarter of the year. So I guess at the end of March or April 1st or something like that, Streeter will be coming on board. Other good news during the power outage, the generator at the 911 center in the jail kicked on. Alerted manager Randy Wittenberg as expected. He was able to respond, monitor fuel, and the center operated as though no outage occurred.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's good. In case you're not familiar with that system, it's a 2-fold system. It has a battery backup so that it goes on immediately, so that there's nothing lost that's on the computer screens. And the battery backup system operates until the big generator comes on, which is like 20 seconds later or something. So there's a redundancy in the system. So that's a good news that everything's working fine out there. Item B on our business tonight is review of draft of an Illinois Emergency Management Mutual Aid System Agreement. You guys had it online. I read the thing finally today. I finally got around to reading it. It looks absolutely boilerplate to me. Chuck, you want to make any comments about it, or it's I think 16 pages?
Yeah. I mean, it is indeed boilerplate because they tried to make it uniform throughout the whole state, so if anybody participates in that, they wanted to have it a uniform document through that, so it is a boilerplate document. There is a next month, if you want to move forward with this, there's an accompanying document that's also boilerplate as far as the resolution for the county board. It's just fill in the blank type of thing, so you'll see that next month if you want to move forward with it, so that is in fact there. We did kind of implement this a little bit to a degree in the last month, on that, you know, we gave some of the different emergency management agencies and statewide search, rescue search, and putting it down, as kind of mutual aid type of thing, and, you know, charging any kind of, they need an agreement or anything like that, but there's a preference that they do have an agreement and they do everything work, so that's kind of where this would kind of fit in.
For the public that's here tonight, why don't you, can you just give a 1 minute or 2 minute synopsis of what this is and what this
Sure.
agreement does?
Okay. Basically, it's a mutual aid agreement that is with the Illinois Emergency Management, not agency, but the private agency that goes along with it. It's all of the Illinois emergency managers throughout the state, a lot of them throughout the state as far as county and the larger municipalities, and then the state is also part of it. What it provides is that it's better to use it in the sense of the disaster that occurred in the past week with Detroit, with the flooding and so forth. If you've paid attention to where they had some responses down to Southern Illinois with the flooding, you notice that they called out some agencies to go out there to help with the sanding. That was it. You may have heard a term in the last 2 days where the governor, if you heard the governor talk, he commented about EMATs and IMATs and stuff like that. Well, that's mobile command centers. This mutual aid system is part of. You take people from other counties in Southern Illinois, they form a group and they have funded command vehicles. They go down there and they basically help organize the response to that, be it sandbagging or evacuation or whatever the else may be. In the next few days, what you're going to be hearing, if the state has more press releases, I think they added 10 more counties today to it, is that they're going to be doing damage assessments. So the damage assessment is not going to necessarily be done by that county by itself. They're going to use mutual aid for doing the damage assessment. The state and the federal government's the one that approves it, and the state kind of does with it. So they have forms that have to be done, and so they're kind of trained uniformly throughout the state as to what these forms are and how to use them. So you're going to see some mutual aid being taken place as far as the damage assessment is concerned. It's twofold. Number one, it's public. The other one is private. So it's your home, or is it a public roadway, bridge, whatever, levee, go along with that. So that's what this basically would do, is say, okay, we can bring all these entities in to help with damage assessment or help management of a storm or whatever the case may be. So that's like 2 minutes.
Okay, and there's a lot of whole harmless stuff in here about equipment and so forth, that if they borrow equipment from us, that the entity that borrows the equipment has some responsibility for it, and you can get out of it at any time. There's a lot of protection that's listed in this agreement.
The lawyers will look through it, well, not our lawyers, but our lawyers will look at it. I mean, they'll go through our legal review too, but it's not, hasn't been reviewed.
It's got plenty of whereases.
It does.
It does. With that,
I don't see any reason to drag our feet on it.
nope. Okay, with that, motion to enter into this agreement, I guess, yeah, it is an agreement.
So moved.
Second? Okay. Any further discussion from the committee? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Update on wind energy issues. Darrell Holt is not here tonight, but he sent me an email that I said that I'd report to you guys on. This is in regard to, I guess, the plan that we have in place. Let's see, I put a lot of thought in the changes we are proposing. Believe there's no perfect answer. We have discussed the possibility of a voting referendum where all townships would have a vote on setbacks. And though it seems like giving the voters a chance to decide what would be the answer, it could open a can of worms, as many voters do not know the consequences of setbacks suggested. I feel that Indian Grove voters probably do not know what some of their citizens have proposed. This is their fault, and it is not the responsibility of the county to straighten it out. What I had proposed is that we can grant Indian Grove their request and at the same time put in our ordinance the steps needed to accomplish what they did with a 6-month time limit if other townships wanted to propose the same thing. There should also be stated that after the 6-month period, the remaining townships would follow the county ordinance. I believe that what he's suggesting with the 6-month time offer thing is not a legal thing that we can do. I think that we are waiting for the Attorney General to tell us how we can handle the Indian Grove situation. So I don't think that we can do what he wishes. I think our only choice is to do what we just discussed with Seth, and that is put stuff on hold. As much as I hate doing that, I feel like, you know, we're wheel spinning, but I don't see any alternative to that right at this time. Any of you guys want to comment on that?
I think we talked about this last time.
Okay, we don't need to go around that circle again, right? That's,
We spent a lot of time on it.
okay? Is that, Bob, you want to say anything?
No,
Anybody? Okay. Anybody, Chuck, have you got anything else on wind energy updates?
I think with Seth's comments and your comments, I think we commented enough on it about it, so.
Okay. With that in mind, probably next month, we need to start working on the moratorium issue. And perhaps before that moratorium, help me out with the date that would need to take effect.
I think it's your April county board meeting, which I believe is April 13th.
Okay,
But then you have to set the wheels in motion for it to be reviewed as a text amendment before the zoning board of appeals, which should take place in March. So January, 2 months in front of it. So the county board says in February, yeah, we need to extend it again, so they recommend extensions in the language as a text amendment, because the county board goes to the zoning board for their official hearing in March. And that can be April for the official.
okay. So perhaps before that moratorium goes into, has to be extended again, we need to have a meeting and rehash this again, I suppose, just to let it show that we have worked towards some kind of agreement here. Because the moratorium kind of designates that we'll spend some time on this. I guess we have, but until we hear from the Attorney General, our hands are pretty much tied. Anybody? So, next month
well, I'm real concerned. We already are exceeding on these moratoriums what has been recommended to us that we can really go for. And if we go for another moratorium, I would think we'd have to take it up until the November election
that's right.
if we're asking Seth for an opinion. You know, so that's like gonna be a 9-month additional moratorium. And that's, this is what I was gonna say, and I shut up. But, you know, that's why I'm wondering if we do have interest in a wind farm in another part of the county. We know that. I don't know if people want it or they don't want it, you know. But if that is a possibility, and we wanna change our ordinances, we need to be getting those changed, I think, quicker rather than later for that, if somebody else wants to. Now, if we can block somehow for anybody trying a moratorium until after November, just by board vote, that we're not gonna allow one in the same proposed district until it's settled in court, what we have, you know, I'd be fine with that. I think from what Seth talked like, it's gonna be a lot later than November election anyway, by the time they get through the court system and everything like that. So, with that being said, I think we need to be working on those ordinances. And if we could do something to block any more activity in the Pleasant Ridge Wind Farm area until after the litigation is settled, I think we need to
Well, we probably,
move.
we probably can't do anything about blocking while litigation is exist, do you think? Or do we know that?
I don't know.
You should consult your counsel, but I wouldn't think so.
You wouldn't think what?
I wouldn't think you would need to do anything because the application was denied, so.
What happens if somebody else wants to come into that same area, another company?
Oh, another
and-
company.
And refile.
No.
That's why I want something said. So they don't go through that again.
Interesting, okay.
You know, what's the likelihood of it? I don't know, probably none.
Maybe.
But I don't wanna get caught with that.
Mark?
I was just wondering, Bob alluded to the possibility of another company wanting to do a wind farm in another part of the county. And that's a good point, good thing here, but has anyone, and I think we all know which company we're talking about here, has anyone contacted that company? Are they ready to move forward with anything up there? Or, I mean, I guess that's my question is, by having a moratorium, are we preventing them from moving forward, or are they just not, or, are they ready to go and they're just waiting on us, or are they just not gonna move forward regardless? Has anyone talked to them?
They're close. I think construction in 2018, possibly, but, you know, in order to get everything done, that's getting close. You know, I don't know. With business climates change and stuff, who knows, they may have a change in heart in doing it. I don't know. But
Well, Bob brings up, like I said, Bob brings up a good point. We don't want, for areas that want the wind, I don't think we want to necessarily really throw, that was the idea behind the township by township vote, to find out what areas wanted and what areas didn't want them, and we certainly don't want to prevent.
But I'm worried, Mark, that could be 4 months or 5 months. And then, you heard Seth, how long is that hearing gonna last, another year?
If they want it, it wouldn't. Would be my thought on that, sir, is that if the residents really wanted it, they'd be loud and clear right off the get-go, and that would take away any concerns if one way or the other.
What's that, Kelly? I didn't follow you, I'm sorry.
If you were, earlier you mentioned you weren't sure if there was even any support for it there. If you were to move forward with that and get the public feedback or comment, you'd know right off the bat if they were for it or not, wouldn't they?
You're talking the Pleasant Ridge?
No, sir, to the other location.
Okay.
Well, my understanding was you said there might be a potential wind farm that would want to do something in 2018. The thought would be is you put it out there to see what you get for feedback, because then you'd know a lot sooner without any drawn out process was just my thought.
I'm not interested in doing that that's the wind farms company business.
But no, not really, because you're represented to elect the people.
Well, but I have no idea what contracts they're gonna,
Okay.
well, I mean,
No, you're right. It's more detailed than that. That just came to mind, and so.
it's a business deal.
Yes and no, that's part of the problem. It started off as a business deal until more facts came forward, and that's why it was voted down. I mean, we do have zoning in the county for a reason, to protect the citizens and the landowners, and it has to be a fit. And I don't know where that other demographic area is, but if it's too close to a town, that could be a potential impact. And I know there is support in certain areas where there is not as much economic benefit in certain areas, and I wholeheartedly appreciate all the efforts that you guys put in there, but at the end of the day, we're elected by the people to represent our people first, not an outside company, and we just gotta keep that in mind as we move forward. And I know there's a lot of stuff that's involved, and I do appreciate all your effort.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Have you had any discussions with Seth about the possibility of doing a action for declaratory judgment to get a court to opine as to whether or not get a court to answer your questions instead of the AG's office? Being very
We have not done that. Do you think a court would?
No, I think you should maybe raise it with Seth at some point, a declaratory judgment action.
It's a question worth asking anyway.
Okay. we'll look into that. He's not here, but we'll look into that possibility. Anybody else regarding wind energy? Okay, Chuck, solid waste report.
Okay, you have a copy of it, I handed out in the packet this evening, it's relatively short. It's basically, they're, asking for carbon well samplings again for this quarter, the top one, so we send out letters to them. Second one was just a regular Clean Air Act report, same as the other ones in the past. The third one down is just again extending review time, EPA gets left through employees, so review time takes longer. December 18th one is a fairly long document. If you want to know about the landfill gas system, that's one of those documents that's good for you to read. Includes a lot of information. This is about the evaluation of effectiveness of the gas migration system. And they basically, their recommendations are to continue to operate, maintain, and repair as needed. So the landfill gas recovery wells online functioning as intended. And continue to monitor and evaluate the gas migration system effectiveness and the probes that were with it. So that's kind of what it is. They do plan on bringing gas migration probe X301. It's in the old, I'll get back to that in just a minute. Put it back under pressure as needed. This well is the one that sits in the corner. As you're looking at the landfill, there's the indent by the gas energy facility there, and then it goes back to north where the new oasis. That's the old fill, meaning the newer fill area. There's a well that sits in there that, if you go back many years ago, before they put in the air curtain through there, that was a well that had some issues a long time ago, so they kind of shut it down. So it's kind of an important well as far as keeping an eye on, because that's where a lot of the gas comes in there before we get in the gas system. So that's why they kind of mention it and how they're, have to kind of shut it down and bring it back online. So it's an important well that's been looked at for a number of years. It sits in there. But then they go in, and then the next one is they continue to have these issues with the wells where they're having the area wells taking gas away from them as the waste gets older, so that'll continue to be looked at. The PDS results are the same as in the past, and then the gas migration monitoring did not show any concentrations again, so that's 3 months on our driveway, so that's a good deal there. And then with the Streeter landfill, it's a follow-up from last month where Andrews Engineering to provide copies to the County Health Department about them seeding some wells in the area. What they've done is when they put the landfill on original, they've left a lot of kilometers in for them to continue monitoring. EPA says you're closed, you don't need them anymore, so you need to sell and seal them off, so they officially seal them to make that work. You have copies of the host agreement information before you. We are getting into a winter area. So the host fees down just a hair, but it's kind of up as to where it was, before. You always see this going down because this construction level goes down, the waste coming in goes down. So for a few months during the winter, the waste levels are down, so your host fees are going to be coming down a little bit too. Everything seems to be fairly normal and common as far as things. Any questions? I did ask them a couple times the debris and litter cleaned up off of 555 before Christmas. I know they worked on it, I don't know if they ever got there, because they had a lot of high wind days.
Yeah,
The tournament
high wind days since then, so.
They're going at it, so I'm not sure they got it completed or blowing up or not. So.
I haven't noticed in trips in the last few days anything particularly bad.
Question?
Good. Everybody okay with the solid waste issues? On the back of Chuck's report is included some draft language about solar energy. We had stuff to take home. I hope you looked at, well, we have 3 or 4 different parts of ordinances from different places about this. And some places have more regulations than others. There were pictures of the solar wind farm at the University of Illinois. I think you guys all
last
time.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've not seen that. Have any of you seen the solar farm?
Not in person.
You buy? With that, Chuck, do you just wanna lead a discussion about this
Yeah.
draft?
Well, basically, what I did is, it's kind of a follow from last month, is I took the information on those three different counties from around the country. I put them into this one to kind of, what I thought were the ones that we were gonna concentrate with. I'm not done with this yet, because I kind of want to look at, like, our wind farm regulations, make sure we're consistent across the board on that. I'm not sure that everything in here is what you're gonna look for. One of the questions has to deal with screening and having, a lot of them, it indicated that it's on the second page at the top of it, number 7, where it makes references to evergreen hedges or earth-in berms or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of different opinions on that. I mean, it's out in the middle of the country. I'm not sure how well it's needed, how many people want it screened or whatever. So that's kind of one of those issues that's probably up for discussion to a degree, but I did include it in that. I did not include any information in here as far as solar energy, as far as an accessory use to like a residence. I've dealt with them in the past. You can permit for it. Generally what I write is as long as it doesn't exceed the height of the permitted height within that district, 30 feet or whatever it be, in the residential district, 20 feet, then it's kind of an allowed issue. And I think through the last few years, I think they've changed to alter their construction so they're not as intrusive as far as shining on your neighbor's property and like that. I did kind of, if you really get into this real deep, I did allow some flex in here as far as the definition is concerned. And then I don't necessarily mean it has to be placed on poles. I mean, since you get a lot of journals and stuff on solid waste issues, you see them a little more frequently put on landfills as a final cover. In Illinois, it's a little bit of a problem because in Illinois, they want you to have soil and grass as final cover. These are generally put on a green plastic that looks like grass, but if somewhere along the line, if we could get to that technology comes in and they say, well, put solar panels on your landfills, bad idea as far as I'm concerned. It's something at least to look into. I mean, I started in California, Arizona, and they're kind of moving around with it. So I kind of left that open as far as if they want to do it, we can review that as an option too to go with that. The acreage in here, the minimum lot size, one of those that I gave you last time referred to 40 acres, and I put not less than 20 acres. That's an automatic variance. You're going to get something less than that. The 20 acres has a little bit of a purpose in there. Is that number one is that you need some acreage. You want to do a commercial site that's out there, and I had a little bit of interest in Streeter area, landfill undeveloped area, which is 21 acres. So I figured 20 acres would work as far as a figure that could work in there. Trying to find some ground that's kind of a waste property that really has very little use and use it for something like that. So that's the reason for that. So, I guess what I'm going to ask you to do is kind of look over these during the next month, see if this is kind of where you want it to go. It's not going to be finalized. I'll probably tweak it a little bit as far as those issues go. What I'm looking at this point in time is to have the regulations, and they're not specific yet, advanced and specific stuff to go at, is have them in the agriculture district, in the I-2 industrial districts, and the 2 districts that'll be special uses. And at this point in time, I'm probably looking at having it designed so the county board is making the final decision on this, as opposed to the zoning board of appeals similar to wind energy. Since our county has the zoning board making all the final decisions, except for the special uses, piecemeal out as far as the county board making those decisions. So I'm probably looking at that, is what I'm probably looking at this. So before I get too deep into this, if you have any comments, don't hesitate to call me, email me, get a hold of me any way you want to, so that we're not kind of going around in circles.
Is this a standard definition
It is.
for
solar farm. It is to a degree, and I cleaned it, I made it simple. I saw some that were a little bit more involved.
Yeah.
I thought, just make it simple as opposed to making it work. I'm on the opposite of an attorney.
So, does this leave, I guess, does it, that definition that you have right there, does it make it so that individuals who are wanting in excess of 5 wind panels or is it such that the average person that's wanting less than massive acreage, does that exclude them in some way?
I think it does, and the way I think that works is that if you look at the last clause, which says the primary purpose for the wholesale retail sales to generate electricity. I realize that you have 5 panels out there and you're generating it for your house, you're gonna have excess power, and I understand that it has to be put into the Ameren ComEd system.
They buy it back.
And they gotta buy it back, I understand that.
And so,
But is that?
the question is, I get what you're saying, it's a
So-
primary, but,
I mean, and I guess my other question to that is, if you wanna be in that type of business, are you gonna be willing to shell out that much cash? And when ComEd and Ameren buys it back, they're buying it less than wholesale,
Yeah, I
less than
get
retail.
you.
I mean, is it economically feasible for somebody to do that idea?
not in 20 years,
Yeah. And at that point in time, you have to replace a lot of the
25-year panels.
structure that's in there.
I just don't wanna see it to where,
I mean, I'm willing to take suggestions on that, but that's, I mean, I thought of that.
I know, and
Yeah.
I've been, I've read that, and I thought,
But I've not, to date, I've not run into anybody that. I mean,
Because
they may have a little bit of excess
with
power.
our solar panel?
Huh?
with our solar panel that we have,
Yeah.
we have 6 of them that produce a kilowatt per hour. We dump directly onto the grid. We don't infuse it into our school. Because I put it in, and so, we're selling it solely, but we're offsetting the power that we use.
Yeah, I'm not,
No, I can,
do we need to do any language about offsetting?
I don't know,
Because that's just easier for you to do it that way.
that's exactly what it is.
That's a mechanism of, it's a lot easier for you to say, well, we're gonna use this, and well, we're gonna have to use this supplemental power here, but during winter break, when there's nobody in there for
Right,
the
right.
whole weekend, you can power the whole place off that, because you're using just minimal lighting. So it's,
I just wanna be careful here, because I think that,
I'll look at that.
I
I
would.
understand, I kinda see where you're at.
Some of them have an amount, 100 kilowatts or something, anything less than that's not a solar farm.
Then it gets into, which brings you into a whole nother point, because you can have different size farms with different size systems, where you could have a smaller acreage with higher watt panels and higher watt inverters, to where it's a tough nut.
It's tough because you don't know where the technology's gonna be in 5 or 10 years.
That's exactly right.
It's not, we're looking at credit card size panel,
Thin film.
you
And then the question is, do they find it to where now they contract out the tops of people's houses in certain areas, or the tops of schools, or the tops of buildings? What again, does that constitute a solar farm? And so I just want to be careful with the definition. I'm not trying to be a nut job here. Thanks, Doc, I appreciate the vote of confidence.
All right.
I mean, if you err on the side of a comprehensive definition, then as the years go on, if you decide there are some installations that don't pose any issues, then you can revise at that point to take them out of the definition.
The opposite of that, though, is you may have caused some people that were originally gonna build one, you may have prohibited them from doing that. And they say, oh, we looked at the regulations in Livingston County, and we don't wanna do that investment. We wanna have any kind of economic development we can have, I think. Particularly this, it's,
But you gotta know, right, too, if the technology changes, then we could change our regulations to fit that technology too.
sure. I want you to all, before we work on this next month about the screening and fencing,
The fencing has to be there, because
the fencing has to be there. That's just the way you've got it titled. I don't know whether a 30-foot vegetative buffer is really something that, I don't even, you need that much visual protection. That's the only thing it's doing, right, is visual.
I would think as long as there's no glare on the road, you do that from a fence, you wouldn't need.
30 feet.
Yeah. It would take 30 years to get good trees up, you know,
Well, it's,
Yeah, we did, it's definitely 3 feet tall, start with that, the evergreen, that girl, certain height.
Here's another side question on this. Use of the word primary use for the parcel of land which is to be located on.
I understand that.
just on that piece of land. I mean, it's not the primary thing for some farmer.
If you put, okay, but if your parcel of land has a structure on it, could you claim that the park is primarily used for?
Yeah.
Is there?
I thought about that too, because of using my landfill technology,
Yeah,
the landfill's the primary use.
that's the primary use of the
Yeah.
landfill.
Yeah.
But just side note is,
I thought about that when I put it in there, but, you know.
falls. I don't know, I think the definition is a difficult one to define, because of where we stand, either A, technology-wise, B, with it being so fresh.
All right, let me work on that.
And I'll be willing to,
All right.
I'll call you, you call me, we can have, I don't get to have lunch, but
Okay, well,
You get break those.
we don't get enough time.
let's everybody ponder this for a month and come back and
I mean, they can't.
revisit it again next month.
Good start, so.
Yeah, thank you for working on that. Anybody else want to say anything about the solar energy regulations that Chuck's worked on, or the,
I'm thankful.
Thanks for the draft.
It's
yes?
thankful to start.
Yeah.
It's almost, if you ever seen champagne, it's almost like champagne, except it's in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
If you want to compare the salad and champagnes, they're almost identical, except one's on the edge of town, and one's in the middle of the field.
I know the ag kids have gone, and Jesse Faber has taken them up there, and they've said everything is well run. I just haven't seen it. I haven't had the opportunity. Actually, I'm not going to.
Let's jump down to number 3, other issues to come before the committee. Chuck, have you got anything there?
I think we've covered everything.
Any committee members got anything?
I got one quick.
Okay,
Sure. Right now, from what I read, the state, are they developing their rules or guidelines for drones? Are those out now?
You have to register, but you have to register now.
You know, it's been brought up at this
Would you like a
committee.
copy of that stuff? I mean, I have it in my office, actually.
Well, just that it's been brought up, is there anything we need to do countywide?
Actually, I'd say you stay away from it, because the federal government, as far as the registration, is kind of taking care of it, for one thing.
It comes in the packet.
Yeah, it's mailing.
You have to go online.
The commercial issue with it is basically, you almost need a pilot's license if you get too big of a drone or go too far to use it commercially. Like, if you're gonna use it, you basically need it, because I had a demonstration between our last meeting and now, I believe, and it was the state demonstration, and they got, like 5 drone pilots, or 2 drones throughout the state of Illinois, but they had to be licensed pilots because of the way they use them. So basically, if, some company wants to use them,
Well, the reason I bring it up is we've had some people from the public that have come to this committee
Right.
wanting to know. And so I think, I need to be able to give them an answer.
And with the new registration regulations coming online. The more of the stuff that's coming out is that if you're using it and, it's gonna be FFA coming down and being the prosecutor on this than it is anything else, so it's probably better to, I don't know how they're gonna do it because of the amount of drones that are out there. But it's probably best in our interest to stay away from it.
It's hard to enforce it, but if you can get one, my son got one, they want this guy for Christmas, but you gotta register that and stuff.
There's a lot of regulations too,
Yeah.
and it's pretty well laid out. I mean, from the federal government, it's laid out well.
Yeah, how they police it, I
They,
don't know.
that if your drone flies and drops on something, and they find it's you, then they police it. Okay, you did this.
In theory, if you do one in the state of, if you want in Pontiac, within 5 miles of an airport, so you're running it illegally, even if it's 20 feet off the ground.
Have they changed? Last summer, the laws on drones were that you had to fly them only over your land. So the commercial guys were kind of out of this.
Right.
Have they changed that?
That's the same, if you're commercial, you have to have a license. If you buy one, though, it's your farmland, you have to register it now, where you didn't a
Right.
year ago. But you can still do it, but you're limited to a 400-foot ceiling, you're limited to being able to, it has to be in sight, you have to be able to keep it in sight all the time.
And over your land.
And over your land, you can't,
So the
you have to look, you
residential
specifically
people.
look what it is yours, I mean, you can't, when you see videos, they mount, detailed cameras to them, and they do crazy things.
Is that considered, Donnie's question, if a farmer's out, farmer from 3,000 or 4,000 acres, some of it's rented ground, not his, he's renting it, can he take a drone then over that ground? Well, but we're talking, farmers are gonna be a big user
I
of it.
would say that he can, because he has an interest in that property. He has a lease agreement with the property.
Well, I would hope,
Well, in Wisconsin, I saw the realtors use it, they're using them to get shots
I've
of
got
property and
neighbors,
stuff.
Now that becomes an issue. They're using it commercially.
Well, that's my
There's an
understanding.
exemption for businesses. If you have a commercial plan, you get an exemption right here. This is on the droneregistration.net from the federal government. And it lists out for a $5 fee, you can register any of them. And it tells you what are the rules and regulations, right here, quick facts. So, it's pretty laid out. The federal government is on this because they're worried about, obviously, planes and everything.
So a farmer can take it on any of the ground they farm.
The facts are right here. I'm not going to comment on the facts because I'm not going to read them all right here, but it
You get a
says,
drone order.
I want a drone. I didn't say I got one.
I thought you had one.
Christmas, I wasn't good enough, Santa didn't come.
Hell, you won't get one for 5 Christmases.
This is a rough crowd.
Go ahead.
One time here, a few months ago, I was driving down the interstate and I think it was a drone. It was flying around and it went over the interstate and back and all of a sudden just went down. And it's kind of scary to think of, people who don't know quite what they're doing. And especially like in that instance, it was close to over the interstate. It might have been right beside it. But it was in the sky and next thing I saw it just.
Sounds like a UFO to me.
It's just something. I think it's going to
Red-tailed hawk.
be a little ahead of our.
Okay, any other issues to come before the committee? Anything, Chuck? Anything else? No. Okay, thank you. Public comment. Don, anything from your end or no? Okay.
Are there any drone owners in the audience that?
My brother-in-law has one. He's had one since before they were cool. Flying at the farm. I don't know what the rules are though, but it's pretty cool. Put the GoPro camera on and they can do. That stuff's kind of neat.
Take them down to 200 feet below the sea level. You
Other-
use your finger.
Other comments?
Yeah.
Anybody tonight?
Give me the dick. Give me it.
Anybody
You'll see
else?
some white out on the screen in a minute.
Are we ready for the magic motion tonight here?
I'll
Good
make
way to
that
start
motion.
Good way to start the month here, the year.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming.
You wanna go